Welcome to Supporting Your Mustang in addition to tuition, a crash course in student transition and critical conversations. This module is one in a series of micro-learning modules designed for parents and supporters of incoming Western students. You may also find the content of this module useful beyond their first year. By participating in this module, parents and supporters of Western students will be able to identify important milestones in your student's transition to university life, understand the transitional issues that your student may experience at different phases of the student life cycle, and acquire the knowledge to approach critical conversations with your students in order to support them in their transition in and through university life. As we work through this module today, I'm going to ask you to keep in mind a few reflection questions. Please take a moment or so to reflect on the following questions. Think about your current relationship with your student. How is your communication currently? How do you think your communication might change while your student is at university? What factors might influence the types of conversations that you will have with your student throughout the year? And what motivated you to tune into this module? I'm going to ask you to continue to reflect on these questions as we work through this module, as well as afterwards. These will be your guide on how you can approach critical conversations with your student. Heading off to university is exciting, busy, and stressful. There's a lot to do over the summer, forms to complete, finances to consider, orientations to attend, shopping to do. Communication with your Mustang may have its wonderful moments, and it may also be difficult at times. In this session, we'll talk about key milestones of your Mustang's transition to university life. We'll also provide some strategies for approaching critical conversations with your student as they adjust to some of the challenges and also to the exciting experiences that they will have in university. Every student is unique and will experience the transition to university differently. So the ways that we approach critical conversations with students will also vary. As such, content in this module represents a range of possible strategies and ideas, but we encourage you to tailor them to the needs of your student and their own journey through university life. Understanding student transition. Learning at university comes in many forms. It happens inside the classroom, in lectures, small formal group discussions, or through interactions with faculty, staff, or administrators. For many of our students, a lot of their learning and development also happens outside the formal academic environment, through involvement in different co-curricular experiences, through a summer job or an internship opportunity, or even a student's interactions with or the influences of their peers. When we're talking about student transition, we're really talking about the move a student makes from one type of educational setting to another. In this case, we're talking about a student's move or transition from high school to university. Now, before we move on, I want to be clear that every student is unique and will be at different stages in their transition to university. There are, however, some common transitional issues that we tend to see amongst first years. The first is a new environment. Your Mustang may fluctuate between feelings of excitement and apprehension in the lead up to September. They might be super excited about the opportunity to meet new people. Some might also find it challenging to familiarize themselves with a new campus or adjust to an increase in academic work after a relaxing summer. Being away from family, friends, and their home may be challenging for your student. Some might also experience some anxiety over meeting new friends or fitting in. Larger class sizes. The sheer size of some first-year courses may be a lot higher than what your Mustang will expect. Learning how to listen to lectures in larger classes and taking notes in this setting can be another adjustment. Academic expectations. Within the first few weeks on campus, students are trying to adjust to the amount of independent work they have to do. The need to practice self-discipline becomes more important as their productivity and their work is no longer supervised by their teachers on a regular basis. Changes in support systems. The support network for each student will change. While some will stay close to their families, their high school friends, and some of their communities, others may make new choices about who's in their social or support networks. New independence, ideas, and ways of thinking. Students will be exposed to new cultures, beliefs, and ways of thinking once they reach university, and they'll also have the freedom and opportunity to meet new people and explore different opportunities. Okay, so from all of this, it's clear a Mustang is going to have a lot going on as they adjust to university life. And there's a lot of helpful strategies and resources that they can draw from at Western to help them with their transition. You can see which resources we offer within Student Experience on the Digital Student Experience website, but your Mustang could also benefit from the resources available in residence life if they're going to be living in residence in their first year, their faculty units, and some of the affiliated colleges as well. You might also notice that at different times of the year, your student might be grappling with different issues. The notion of a student life cycle is a shorthand way of describing the phases and the corresponding needs of students as they enter into, transition through, and graduate from university. It can usefully be viewed as a series of transitions towards, into, through, and out of university life. For example, in September, we often see first-year students grappling with making friends and fitting in. Maybe they're dealing with feelings of homesickness, or they're exploring their new freedoms and new experiences. Students may be adjusting to a stressful workload. Some might be surprised or disappointed with lower marks or not seeing the same grades they achieved in high school. Some might experience financial stress as they figure out how to budget and manage their personal finances, sometimes for the first time. Some might also be trying to maintain part-time employment with their new academic workload. Come winter, students can be struggling with the winter blues, with their mood and their motivation affected by a lack of energy or an increase in academic anxiety. Some students might bury themselves in their studies or miss important opportunities to eat, exercise, and sleep on a regular basis. These are just a few examples. Looking at the student life cycle, we recognize that different students will have different needs at different stages. Transitional stress is normal, and it can affect each student differently. The simplifying assumption that they're all students or that we can relate to all students the same way across all their years can result in missed opportunities to provide support that meets the needs of each student in a personalized way. As a parent or supporter, you might notice some differences in how your student is behaving. And as someone who knows them so well, this might be concerning. It might have you thinking about how you can have a productive conversation to help them through some of these transitional phases or life milestones. There might be many reasons you need to have a difficult conversation with your student. It might have to do with a poor semester academically, poor social decisions, financial issues, or many other possible situations. Whatever the topic, you might be dreading this conversation. It's important, it's necessary, but you might be thinking of the ways it could go badly. There's no getting around the fact that this conversation might be challenging, but there are a few things that you can do to help it go smoothly and ensure that you and your student are more comfortable with the outcome. Before you sit down and have that tough conversation, consider a few things. What exactly is the problem? Try to define the problem you've identified as specifically as you can. The more focused you can be, the better. It's far too easy to think in vague terms and never really pinpoint the exact problem. If your student didn't do well last semester, is the problem their grades or their behavior? Each of these conversations might be different, so know what it is you need to talk about. Plan, but don't plan. You need to do some serious planning for your conversation. Know what you need to talk about and how you want to approach it. But try to keep an open mind and listen to what your student brings into the conversation. Listen to them and be aware of the language that you use. Acknowledge their feelings and avoid the tendency to problem solve. Have confidence that your Mustang has the ability to find the solutions that will meet their needs, maybe with a little support and guidance from you. Create an open environment. Problems are better solved when one person can articulate a problem to another person and people find solutions together. It also helps if one doesn't feel like they're going to disappoint the other person or get in trouble. Creating an open environment is important because your student may not always open up about what's really bothering them. Think about what you were doing the last time you had a good conversation with your student. Most of us think talking is supposed to be about relating deeply, but it might be easier for your student to open up if you're in the middle of doing other things, during what I refer to as these in-between moments in life. Using one of these moments as an opportunity could be a good entry point into having a deeper conversation. What's your purpose? Well, you shouldn't necessarily plan the solution. You can think about what the general outcome is that you hope for. Do you need to find a solution right away? Do you just want to plant some seeds for thought? Think about why this conversation is important right now. What do you hope to walk away with? And don't assume that your Mustang completely understands the impact of the situation or is aware of the source of the problem. They may be looking to figure all of this out with support and guidance from you. Approach the conversation from your own perspective. Use I statements like, I feel disappointed when I hear that you failed a course, or I'm worried about the amount of money on your credit card. Try not to accuse or minimize your students' own feelings or reactions. Instead, talk about your feelings and reactions. Tell them how you feel. If you own your own reactions, it will help your student own theirs. Help your Mustang participate in the conversation. Your student may not be sure what to expect from this conversation. Ask the kinds of questions that invite open responses. Be willing to really listen to what they have to say and acknowledge their feelings and perspectives. If you've never had this kind of conversation before, your student may need some help knowing how to be part of the process. After they've shared, then discuss together how your student might have handled the situation differently and work together to figure out a solution to the problem. Ask for ideas from them and don't be afraid to give yours. Just try not to lecture. Keep it short and use your wisdom to guide them in making some important decisions. You might begin with something like, I know my experience isn't anything like yours. Things are different now. Powerful advice means recognizing our own limits to help students make independent decisions. When students feel they have the space to make their own decisions and feel supported in that, they're more willing to open up and feel more empowered to improve the situation. Know your limits. What are the limits of this conversation? Try to make sure that both you and your student have enough time to make this talk meaningful. Are you willing to try whatever your student might suggest? Be clear about how open you are to potential solutions. Stay focused on what is really important and critical, and encourage your students to use positive coping strategies to manage the situation. Have confidence in your students' ability to cope and resolve the situation. Difficult conversations are just that, difficult. But difficult conversations can be valuable experiences for both you and your student. Perhaps you'll find a solution to the problem, or perhaps it will need more exploration. But both you and your student may find that the experience of working together to find the solution is the most important part of the process. As you reflect on this module today, I hope that you continue to think about how you might approach critical conversations with your student. First, we situated this module with a crash course in student transition. By understanding different transitional issues and needs that your student might have at different times, we can approach critical conversations with more empathy and understanding. We also talked about some tangible strategies for approaching these critical conversations. As you and your student move into this next stage, I implore you to reflect on these final reflection questions. How do you want to approach critical conversation and communication with your student while they're at university? What knowledge, skills, and abilities do you hope your student develops at Western to successfully navigate any transitional issues that arise? I invite you to share your reflections on Twitter and use the hashtag WesternYouThrive. Please encourage your student to check out these additional summer programs at Western, all designed to help prepare them to thrive come the fall.